Okay, I want to start on this case with the most controversial part, which is the camera control button. This is a new feature that Apple brought out for the iPhone 16, the camera control button. It really disrupted the industry last year, and it was really hard to deal with. So for those of you that were following it, you'll know that we originally brought out a cutout. Now that's a design that we stand by. It followed Apple's guidelines and it gave you unhindered access to the button so that you could fully use it. Whereas other competitors that didn't follow Apple's guidelines actually blocked your access to the button. So that's why we made it in that way. But we got a lot of feedback saying that people wanted a button. So we worked tirelessly. The engineers were non-stop trying to make a button as fast as they could. And 3 months after the iPhone launched, we had already launched a button. But this year, we have taken it a whole step further. We knew we could make that button better, and the amount of work that has gone into the camera control button for this limitless case is insane, and we are so proud of where we've got to. Because of the amount of work we put into the camera control button this year, I've got our CEO James to explain exactly how it works. You ready to explain, James?
Let's go. So the button needs to register your finger resting, it needs to register a light touch, a full press, or a swipe. So imagine you're taking a photo in a timely moment, you've got the pressure of taking a photo, and if it doesn't work perfectly, it's just going to be really annoying and you're not going to use the button as intended.
And that's because of the different features of the buttons, in like you double tap to change setting, you swipe to zoom and filter between what you want to do, and then you have to do the full press to actually take a photo.
Exactly. And what's really tough for protective cases is they're made out of materials that absorb energy. Now you don't want any energy being absorbed from your finger through to the button.
Yeah.
And equally, you don't want the energy being absorbed of the feedback, because you need feedback, which is the haptic engine in the phone. It gives you like a buzz if you've done a tap or a double tap, or you need to feel the difference from a click. It's a two-way thing. And that's why we put 2 engineers working on this button. We had individuals' jobs that were working on the button.
Full time, just full.
Yeah, more work, I'd say, went into this button than many products that we've made. And actually we had multiple suppliers refuse to work with us because of how intricate we've made it. And that is necessary to make such a sensitive button on a protective phone case. And this is patent pending. Right, so how does it work? Well, as we've spent all our budget on engineering the button, I will actually show you with the cutout. This is what your finger presses against. So this represents toughened glass. And this is tougher in real world than sapphire. And so that's what your finger presses against. So the PCB board registers where your finger is touching. So let's attach the PCB board to the toughened glass. So you've got the toughened glass that your finger touches against, and underneath you've got a PCB board. So it goes like that. And that attaches to a silicone diaphragm that moves in and out, that's, you know, almost paper thin. And because this is now so intricate, that silicone diaphragm attaches to an aluminium frame that goes around the buttons. And for that aluminium frame, we're going to use your hands. So very intricate. It needs to also be durable whilst being intricate, holding this silicone diaphragm. And to explain this, we're going to pretend that Piers's forehead is a camera control button. You've got the aluminium frame here, and his arms represent the case frame, okay? Now, what is important is the silicone diaphragm is designed so it's preloaded onto the button. So what that means is when the case is on, it's slightly pressing against the button. And that means that if I kind of do a slight tap, or I like run my finger along, you can feel that, right?
I can feel that. Yeah.
So one of many problems that could happen is if the button isn't preloaded, i.e. there's a gap, and you actually need to kind of press in and so that kind of absorbs the energy, and also means that if you tap it, nothing necessarily happens, or you swipe it and it doesn't register. So it has to be preloaded on. Now sometimes the cases can be too much preloaded on, so it's too much pressure. So he's already got pressure on his forehead. So if I then go and run my finger across it now, can you feel it?
No.
Because it's already got loads of pressure on.
I can't feel that.
The silicone diaphragm is thin and made out of silicone because it allows energy to be sensitive between, you know, going from your finger to the button. And that allows the button to work out the difference between a light touch and a hard touch, and for you to work out whether you're getting a buzz from the haptic engine or feeling a full click. So all of this is very intricate, but the problem that protective phone cases have, so these are the arms, is that material is often made out of soft material, but that means that this can go like in and out. So even if you make all of this aluminium structure, the hands, the silicone diaphragm, everything's very intricate. If it's attached to like TPU and TPE, which is like quite hard to get like fine tolerances and is soft and moves, like especially over time, we found that a button can warp. So this is the polycarbonate underneath the impact material, which is TPU and AeroShock, and we've actually created a shroud that goes round the button, and that means that it's really stiff and precise. So that is the arms. That stops it from being either like not preloaded or too much preloaded.
So it stays preloaded.
Yeah, in the exact same place all the time over the whole age of the case. If you take a competitor case where the case is protective, it's made out of here TPU, that is soft, and that basically like moves around, which means even if you've got the aluminium frame and the silicone diaphragm, things are going to go wrong. It's going to be too preloaded on and it's not going to be sensitive at all, he's not going to feel it, and then it might warp over time, the button falls out, absolute nightmare. That is then when it's overmolded, so it's triple injected over the top of that. That was so intricately done, and we had to have like lots of injection molding techniques to be able to make something so intricate, absolute nightmare. And then you need a case to be rigid to stop the foam popping out and for torsion and twisting. So this is our case without the button in, this is a competitor case without the button in. See how soft that is, and then just see how tough ours is. And that's really important as well for protection, because look, when I bend the case, it bends where there's a big hole in the case. And so that extra stiffness also adds to the protection.
So to summarize, so that I understand what you're saying correctly, the glass that sits on top of the PCB, where the silicone diaphragm allows it to move to register the correct touch on the Apple camera control button, needs to be perfectly preloaded so that the haptic feedback from the button is perfect against what you're touching. If it's too loaded, it's hard to feel it or feel exactly where it is. Or if it's here, then it doesn't register. And what that means is this basically needs to be kept rigidly in the perfect position every single time. And the aluminium frame that surrounds it only does so much, because if these TPU sides allow the button to move, what you're going to get is not that perfect placement that allows the correct touch. And because we've built this PC housing into it, you can see it on the final case there, you get very, very little movement and real rigidity where the camera control button sits, so that it perfectly connects with Apple's feature. Whereas if you're a competitor like this, that has made it far less rigid and it moves about a lot, what you'll find is the camera control button moving in the same way, and at points a lot, but you won't be able to get the right sensory touch because it sits somewhere else. So when you come to take a photo or swipe along and use the features, you can't bloody use it. Whereas with ours, it should feel as close as possible to using Apple's naked feature. What an engineering
And our
feat.
customers understand that, and that's why people who buy Mouse products are smarter than everyone else.